Hi and welcome. It's Jill Hatterson. This is the fifth in the series of the Mastermind Group for Think and Grow Rich. So welcome. It's really good to have you on the line, and I'm glad that you are part of this. This week we are talking about Chapter 7, which is the one on decision. Now, Napoleon Hill gives so many examples all the way through the book on how people take decisions and how they can make decisions easier, how they can make them more effective, how they can make decisions really work for them. This feels like one of the favorite chapters of mine, although I say that for many of the chapters, because there's so much good stuff in here. It really is good stuff. And every time I read it, I get so much more information out of it. So in terms of decision, one thing that we need to think about is indecisiveness. Here he talks about, in the chapter on decision, he says, analysis of several hundred people who had accumulated fortunes well beyond the $1 million mark disclosed the fact that every one of them had the habit of reaching decisions promptly and of changing these decisions slowly, if and when they were changed. People who fail to accumulate money, without exception, have the habit of reaching decisions, if at all, very slowly, and of changing these decisions quickly and often. So I'm sure that you've been in a restaurant where somebody has ordered their food. So they've got the menu, they've ummed and ahed and said, oh, I really feel like the salmon, or I feel like the chicken, or I feel like the beef, or I think I might go vegetarian. And they go backwards and forwards making this decision. Then eventually when they make a decision, they call the waiter back and they change it. And then when their food arrives, they look at everybody else's and wish they'd had something that they didn't order. So I'm sure that you've seen that, and I'm sure none of you have been like that. But if you have been like that, or you know somebody who's been like that, why don't you try next time you go to a restaurant, get your menu and pick the first thing that you see that you like and decide that you're going to have that and order it and see how it goes. Because decision making is a bit like a muscle. The same as the muscles in our body get better with use. And some of my muscles I can't really rely on because I don't exercise them that frequently. Decision is exactly the same. If we don't exercise it frequently, we can't rely on it. If we do exercise it frequently and get it into shape, then we can really rely on it. So I see this very similar to intuition, to perception, to will, to imagination. These are all muscles. These are all our mental muscles that we can rely on when we need them, only if we've actually used them. So decide whether you want to actually get better at decision making, or whether you are happy with the way you do already make decisions. So that's on indecisiveness. When we are indecisive, we can use procrastination not to take action. So sometimes a decision is a good way to move through and take action, but sometimes we use it as a procrastination mechanism if we decide not to make a choice right now. If you're standing at a fork in the road, so imagine that there's a road, there's two paths going in front of you, and you're standing at the fork. If you can't decide which road to go on, what happens? You just stand at the fork. So you don't actually go anywhere, you don't actually move. Even if you were to take the left fork and get halfway down and discover the right one would be better, at least you would know, you would have some sort of definite result. And this is the thing with decision. If we don't make a decision, we deliberate about something, we talk about it, we tell all our friends about it, and how exhausting is that when somebody is deliberating and doesn't actually take action. They don't make a decision and don't take action. If we keep on deliberating, it means we're standing at that fork in the road and we don't move. So we can stay there for days, we can stay there for weeks, we can stay there for years. How sad is that? Very sad. At least if you took the wrong fork, you'd see some new views, you would experience something, you'd get some exercise, you'd get some benefits out of it, even if it wasn't actually the right road for you to go on. Even if you had to turn all the way back, come back and go back to that fork in the road and then take the other one, you would still get some benefits. So this is the thing with making a decision. Even if you make the wrong decision, and I put that in inverted commas because I don't believe many decisions are wrong decisions. I just believe they might be the decision that's not the right decision for the time. It's not necessarily the wrong one. it's just not appropriate for the time, or it's not going to serve you to get where you want to go. If we take that wrong decision, then we can look back and say, we wish we hadn't taken that. But if we look for the good in that, we'll see the good. Maybe we met some people we didn't meet before. Maybe we increased some cash flow in our business. Maybe we connected with somebody we hadn't seen for a long time. Maybe we learned something about ourselves. So we very often learn something when we make the wrong decision. So therefore, no decision is actually the wrong decision. It's all whether this decision is better than that decision. The quality of the questions that we ask ourselves really determines the quality of our life. You can either ask questions that give you answers that make you feel less than who you are and kind of beat yourself up. So questions like that would be, why did I do this? What got me into this trouble in the first place? Where did I go wrong? What shouldn't I have done? Those are all questions that can't take you on a negative spiral. They can take you on a spiral downwards. Questions like, what is the good that's come out of this? What am I grateful for? What can I learn? Those are questions that spiral you upwards. They take you upwards so that you can really learn more, that you can get better more, and you can benefit a whole lot more. So that's what those are my thoughts in terms of decision, the right or wrong decisions that there are to have. He talks about, in this book, he talks about Henry Ford, and one of his most outstanding qualities was his habit of reaching decisions quickly and of changing them slowly. The quality was so pronounced in Mr. Ford that it gave him the reputation of being obstinate. Now, we know obstinate people, sometimes they're a pain to be with, but maybe he was getting the results he wanted. And he has certainly left a legacy for many, many years. There are still Ford vehicles driving on the road today, even if it's 100 and something years later. Think about that when you're afraid of making a decision that'll make you unpopular. Decide whether it's more important for you to be popular or if it's more important for you to be making the right decision. Now, I'm just being made aware that maybe my sound is not totally good, so I'm going to plug my microphone in, and I trust that this will make a bit of a difference. There we go. Is that better? There we go. That looks a lot better. So I trust that you've actually been able to hear me all this time while we've been going. If you can just send me a message on the chat, that would be really, really good. Okay, so on page 150 of Think and Grow Rich, he talks about the majority of people who fail to accumulate money sufficient for their needs are, in general, easily influenced by the opinions of others. They permit the newspapers and the gossiping neighbors to do their thinking for them. Opinions are the cheapest commodities on earth. Everyone has a flock of opinions, ready to be wished upon anyone who will accept them. If you are influenced by others' opinions when you reach decisions, you will not succeed in any undertaking, much less in that of transmuting your own desire into money. So, opinions being the cheapest commodities on earth. If you are waiting to make a decision and you're going to base it on somebody else's opinion, it may be the right decision for them, but it may not be the right one that's going to serve you right now. Opinions are the cheapest commodities on earth. And I find those that are really passionate about their own beliefs and their own, where they're sitting. If you go and ask them something that's way out of their comfort zone, that's way out of their awareness zone, you're probably just going to get a negative type answer, or you're not going to get a very useful answer that's going to help you get closer to making a better decision yourself. So let's get back to the fact that it's quick decisions are actually better than slow decisions. Malcolm Gladwell wrote a book called Blink, and I really enjoyed the first part of this book. It talks about the importance of taking a shorter time to make a decision and an observation, and using your intuition or gut feel to actually rely on that. Because they did studies over several years and days and hours, and they found that by reducing the amount of time that they took to make a decision or to make an analysis, the more accurate that analysis became. Isn't that interesting? We kind of think that we need a long time to make a decision because we need to gather all the facts, get all the information together, check all the different opinions, what so-and-so thinks, what the neighbor thinks, what the friend thinks, what the parents think, what everybody thinks. And then we think we'll make a decision. But in fact, all that does is it often confuses us. It doesn't actually give us a clearer decision. It's far better to seek the opinions of those that are already doing what we want to do. That's a good place to seek opinions. And also to do a gut check and to do some journaling over what you think is the right answer to do. I use journaling a lot. I have several journals around everywhere. I have tall ones. I have the gratitude of attitude journal. I have a journal in my car. I have a journal next to my bed. I keep journals everywhere so that I can jot down things. I find when I'm sitting with a pen in my hand and a piece of paper, I can get answers that I can't get when I'm just busy. So that might be something that you can try, is actually having a journal that you can write in so that you can start taking down some of the ideas. Sometimes we already know the answer before we ask anybody else's opinion. And we actually just trying to ask them opinion to either verify ourselves or to make ourselves feel better, or to maybe even to delay the moment of making that decision. So sometimes information gathering can be a procrastination tool. That's a bit of a challenge. Ask yourself if you've actually used procrastination as if you've used fact-finding and knowledge-finding as a procrastination tool not to do something. Because I know that when we're up against the terror barrier, when we're up against a real success story, when we're really about to break through and achieve our goals, that is when we want to go back to the drawing board and we want to go and make another decision and find some more information and get other people's opinions and talk to other people about it. And that's not really the right time. It's a really good idea to get those opinions when you need them from those who've already achieved what you want to achieve. So don't go seeking opinions from those who haven't achieved what you want to achieve, because you're going to get a completely different set of information. Now, decisions also need to be in proportion to the risk that there is in making that decision. In this day and age, and particularly here in Australia, other countries are slightly different, but here in Australia, the risk of some decisions are really quite small. There is no risk of life or death. There is no risk of going hungry, losing everything, not losing everything. So make decisions in such a way that it doesn't really matter what the outcome is. You know, look at the outcome and see what is the greatest risk. What is the worst thing that could happen if I did make the wrong decision? Remember I said there are no wrong decisions? But what is the worst that could happen if you made a decision that didn't really serve you? Well, you could learn something, get some new views. You could benefit in some way. It might make a great story that you could tell at another stage. There isn't a huge risk to most of the things in our lives. So think about the risk of any decision. Get back to the restaurant example. If you're in a restaurant and you order the wrong dish, what is the risk for you? It's really that you wasted a little bit of money. You may or may not go hungry. You may just be able to order another dish if you don't like that. So the risk is not really, really huge. The cost is not that high. If we use our muscles to exercise, if we exercise those decision-making muscles on the small, low-risk, low-cost things, we can get a stronger muscle that we can then rely on the big risk and the big cost. So first of all, I covered indecisiveness, indecision, and how it can be a procrastination tool. Now we've covered risk, we've covered opinions, how people's opinions can be cheap. You know, they don't necessarily give us any insight. And now we're covering risk. So when you're about to make a decision, think about those three things, whether it's procrastination, think where you need to get opinions from, and think about the risk involved with that decision, whether it's big risk or whether it's not big. You know, sometimes even on the big risk items, sometimes that's when we need to really listen to ourselves and that gut feel, because we can't always get all the information we need. It's not always at hand. Some things we may only find out as things happen. I know a lot of people who have made a decision, a gut decision on buying a house, And later on, they found out that that house was the better house for them, and the house that they were almost tempted to buy because it seemed the right one, they reasoned that it was the right one, turned out to be not such a good decision. So by going with their gut, they actually had a better investment, because we don't know what we know, and we don't know what we don't know. There's a whole gray area there. We have a big blind spot within us. And when we actually trust our gut feel and we get used to exercising that decision muscle, we often make the right decision for us, and we often make really, really good decisions around that. The chapter here carries on talking about George Washington and the American Revolution. And there's some really, really good stories of definite decisions that were reached. And there was really, really a lot of risk involved. So for those definite decisions to be reached, there was a lot at stake. And when people get into the habit of being able to make those tough decisions when there's a lot at stake, they often become really sharp at it. So they become very good at it. It's almost like sharpening your saw or honing your skills so that you can really make those good decisions. I want to call your attention to a little bit further on page 151. Sorry, back one, 151. And it talks about the value of these decisions. Right at the bottom, freedom or death on a decision. If you look over here, right down at the bottom there. Freedom or death on a decision. The value of decisions depends upon the courage required to render them. The great decisions, which have served as the foundation of civilization, were reached by assuming great risks, which often meant the possibility of death. Lincoln's decision to issue his famous Proclamation of Emancipation, which gave freedom to the slaves of America, was rendered with full understanding that his act would turn thousands of friends and political supporters against him. He knew, too, that the carrying out of that proclamation would mean death to thousands of men on the battlefield. In the end, it cost Lincoln his life. That required courage. So sometimes we make decisions that can cost our life, but in most cases, in this day and age, there's not that huge risk. So again, that's talking about the risk and the importance of making decisions in spite of risk. Now, as we go through, it also talks about faith and courage being involved with risk, because faith and courage are an integral part of this. Faith comes in when we actually believe that we're going to achieve something. So I find that if we're about to make a decision and we're thinking, there's no ways that this is going to turn out any way right, I'm going to make the worst decision, I always make bad decisions. If we have that sort of energy, that sort of negative kind of frame, we enter that decision with a very low kind of vibration, with a very poor self-esteem and a very low confidence. So what decision are we likely to make when we enter it with that sort of attitude? Probably not the right decision for you. So it becomes self-perpetuating. You make the wrong decision, and then you look back and you go, that really was the wrong decision. I should have made something different. So we go, I knew going in it would be a bad decision. I made a bad decision. Look, I've made a bad decision. It becomes a self-perpetuating thing. And then those that are not good at making decisions just keep feeling they're not good at making decisions. You've got the choice right now. You can decide you're good at making decisions. And as you decide that, think back to all the decisions you've made, particularly the good decisions. The best decision that you've made, think back on your last 3 really good decisions. And if you can't think back further enough, go back even longer. It's really important, this, and I want you to get the hang of it. Remember your last 3 really good decisions. Now tell yourself, say, I am a good decision maker. I'm a really good decision maker. So whatever your name is, say, I'm a good decision maker. It sounds really corny and it sounds really weird, and particularly if you're sitting watching this on a computer and there's nobody else around. It probably looks weird when people look in the window and they see me talking to you on the computer because there's nobody else in my office. But that's okay. Look at the 3 good decisions that you've made. We can either use our memory to look at the last 3 bad decisions and call ourselves a bad decision maker, or we can look at the 3 good decisions. I might be banging on about this, and if it's irritating you, then it's probably something you really need to take on board. I've discovered anything that irritates me when I hear it repeatedly is often something that I really, really do need to take on board. And it's probably because I'm not taking it on board that it's irritating me. But that's okay. So those really good decisions, when you remember those good decisions and you make your next decision, you're probably going to make a really great decision, which then confirms that you're a good decision maker. Do you see how this is a little bit like a circular kind of argument? If you think you're a bad decision maker, you make bad decisions. If you think you're a good decision maker, you make good decisions. It's a bit like that. Whatever we think whether we think we can or we can't, we are really right. And the same comes down to decision making. There's some common themes that I find go through Think and Grow Rich. And this whole notion of whether you think you can or you think you can't, or if you think it's going to be a bad decision, will be, that's really a common theme that runs through. So it shows us the importance of our thoughts and how important every single day it is to think positive things. I think that's why I like reading this book so often, and why I like running these mastermind groups, even though I've read through them and I'm sharing what I've learned. It's because it focuses my mind on really positive things. And when we focus our mind on really positive things, we tend to see opportunities. We tend to see ways that we can do something, not ways that we can't. And that's really what I think is important. Because when we think we've got an option to do something better, we find that option. If we feel there's no hope, let's not go there. We don't want to go down there. Don't want to go down that road. So on page 160, if you see me moving around, it's because I have a football that I'm sitting on, and I really like it, but it's not as static as a regular chair. Definiteness of decision always requires courage, sometimes very great courage. The 56 men who signed the Declaration of Independence stake their lives on the decision to affix their signatures to that document. Individuals who reach a definite decision to procure a particular job and make life pay the price they ask do not stake their lives on that decision. So remember that when it comes to a job or business, it's not about a life and death decision. It's actually just about that job or business. So they stake their economic freedom, financial independence, riches, and the desired business and professional positions are not within reach of the person who demands or refuses to expect, plan, and demand these things. So in other words, if we don't expect, plan, and demand success, then we're often not going to get it. If we're expecting to make the wrong decision and we're expecting to get the worst deal in life, we probably will. The person who desires riches is sure to accumulate wealth. Now, we've discussed this before. When he talks about wealth, you can put in there any goal that you really, really wish to have. If you feel jarred by the title, Think and Grow Rich, if you feel it's a wrong title, and you feel jarred every time you hear this wealth, maybe you actually want more money than you're making. And it's okay. It's okay. Your money beliefs are something that we can talk about. I actually really love talking about money beliefs, because it's our money beliefs that determine how much we make, how much we earn, how much we save, and how much we have when we're at the end of our lives, when we want to retire. It's up to you to decide whether you want to actually get more funds in or whether you don't. That's a decision. Again, back to decisions. Everything is a decision. In fact, I think decision is so important that I have it as one of my first points on my model, which I think I showed you last week. Decide, connect, believe, and act. If we don't take a decision, then we don't know who to connect to, we don't know what beliefs to focus on, and we don't know what actions to take. So that's when we just get busy, when we haven't taken a decision. We just get busy doing the things we've always done. And if you do the things you've always done, you're going to get the results you've always gotten. So if you like those, that's great. If you don't, you can change them. This is the fun bit. I love being able to change things if I like. So on page 161, it talks about chapter 6 on organized planning. Now, organized planning is not a chapter that we're going to be discussing in these video series. But organized planning is really, really good. Sorry, that was the last chapter, chapter 6. Organized planning is a really good chapter to read because it has such detailed information on how to go about becoming successful and where you need to have organized planning yourself and where you need it in others. He also talks about this in specialized knowledge and how we need to find the right people for specialized knowledge. We don't always have to acquire that unless there's some knowledge that you really do need to acquire. I find most people try and accumulate way too much knowledge, more knowledge than they actually need, when they could actually get away with a lot less and delegate that decision or that activity to somebody who has got the right knowledge. So he talks about in chapter 6 on organized planning, you were given complete instructions for marketing every type of personal service. You were also given detailed information on how to choose an employer you prefer in the particular job you desire. So this goes whether you're working for somebody else or whether you have your own business. These instructions will be of no value to you unless you definitely decide, there's that word again, to organize them into a plan of action. And unless you pursue that plan with persistence, which is the 8th step to riches. So persistence is a really, really good chapter, and persistence really creates understanding. I'm going to read to you this little excerpt here. It says, riches do not respond to wishes. They respond only to definite plans, backed by definite desires through constant persistence. Every failure brings with it the seed of an equivalent success. So you can get excited next time you have a challenge, next time you feel like you experience a failure, because it means that the next step will be an opportunity and great success. Isn't that exciting? I think it's exciting. It certainly helps me whenever I've been through challenges to know that there's that success is only one step beyond reach. So what have we covered today? We've covered how indecisiveness can sometimes be a procrastination tool. We've covered how opinions are the cheapest things on earth, and we really only need to seek opinions from those who have really succeeded doing what we want to do, or somebody who's wise enough to maybe reflect back to you what thoughts are going on in your mind and help you get clear. I find that's really handy. That's where it's really handy to have a coach. I've worked with my mastermind partner as well as my coach to get clear on some of my concepts. And that's exactly what I do for clients, is they'll come to me and they'll say, I'm really wondering about making this decision. I'm not sure whether to do this or I'm not sure to do that. And often by having a sounding board or a thinking partner, just by expressing what's on your mind, you actually get clear. This is the beautiful thing, is sometimes I don't even do much. Just listen and reflect back, and the person gets really, really clear on what they want. So if you need some clarity, then let me know. I can help you with that. The third thing that we spoke about was risk. What is the risk of the decision that you're facing? If the risk is very low, then make a decision and go with it and enjoy it. You can always come back or buy a new thing. I remember when we moved to Australia at first. And of course, arriving here, I didn't know some of the brands in the supermarket. I didn't know the street names. I didn't know the buildings. I didn't know the slang names for different areas, different parts of the beach for different highways. Everyone's got different kind of casual names for them, and I didn't know them. But I remember standing in the supermarket aisle, and there's all the boxes of washing powder. And I think I took about 40 minutes to deliberate over which box of washing powder to buy. Now, this is $4. It's not a huge amount. There's nothing at stake. If I buy the wrong one, I can always chuck it out. But I stood there for ages and ages going, I think I'll take that one. Then I'd read it. No, not that one. What about that one? Not that one. So my point there is, I know when we've been through overwhelming situations and we've been through maybe a crisis or a challenge or a big thing, it can affect our decision-making capacity. And that's okay. That's when it's just time to get honest and go, I've actually been through a lot, and it's okay that I don't feel like I'm up to making decisions. As long as you're mindful of that, then you've made a choice to maybe hang back from decisions. But if you haven't been through all that and you are still deliberating, then that's something you need to address. Then you do need to get better at decision making, and I can help you with that if you need to. Generally, people who become successful are fairly good at decision making. Most of the people that I work with are fairly good at decision making. There may be some bigger decisions than they've ever made before, or they have just faced a different circumstance to what they've faced before, or they're trying to step right out of their comfort zone and they're having a bit of trouble with that. So if you don't know about the comfort zone and the terror barrier, go and have a look at the Tuesday message that I sent today, which is the 23rd, 24th of March. If you're watching this sometime in the future, then go back and have a look at that date for my Tuesday message. And that explains the whole terror barrier to you, because that makes a lot of sense when you actually see it. So remember, lack of decision actually is a symptom of lack of purpose. When we don't really know what we want, it's hard to make a decision. What did somebody say? If you don't exactly know where you're going, any road's going to get you there. If you get into your car and you have your GPS there, if you just say to it, just drive, go there, they're going to say, where is there? Where do you want to go? What is your destination? We need to know what that destination is for us, even if we don't know exactly what it looks like, if we don't know how long we're going to take to get there. If we have a goal in mind and we know somewhere where we want to head, then we can make decisions according to that. But if you haven't set any goals, if you don't have a goal, if you don't know what you really want, then it's quite possible that you're going to be indecisive about most things in your life. Whereas when you have a goal and you have a time frame, then it's much easier to make decisions. Does that make sense? I hope it does. I think it does. So I thought we'd make it a short session this time, because then you don't have to spend all day listening to it. Think about your decisiveness and your indecision, and decide which is going to serve you going forward. Think about that risk, think about the opinions, think about what's important with making decisions. I hope that you've made some notes and that you're going to stick with them. What I wish for you is that you've got 3 action steps that you can take action on. If you need help, please email me. I'm quite happy to help you. It's on my YouTube account. You can go and have a look there. Please email me and I will gladly help you, because I'm passionate about helping people with their goals. Because I know when you've got a goal that you're excited about, procrastination falls away, indecisiveness falls away, all that other stuff falls away, because you've got something that you're really excited about. So I hope that you have a really great week, and I look forward to talking with you again soon. Next week, we are talking about persistence, which is actually chapter 8. There it is there. It is the 8th step to riches. It's called the sustained effort necessary to induce faith. Now, when I was studying with Bob Proctor, he said to me, why don't you read Persistence every single day for 30 days? So I'm going to give you that challenge. Why don't you read a chapter on persistence every day for the next 30 days and see what happens? Who knows? It could really have great results for you. So this is Jill Hutchison saying goodbye. Thank you for being with me, and I look forward to seeing you again next week. Thank you. Bye.